I'm here to help women reset and rewild, to embrace and prioritize the pauses in order to reclaim their peace and power. I'm Dr. Michelle Peris, director of the Poppy Clinic and founder and CEO of the Wild Collective. As a disruptor, naturopathic doctor, wife, and mama, I've created a global movement and sacred space for women to rise together. Here, you'll break through limitations, romanticize your life, and unlock the magic of your divine feminine power. My life's work is rooted in community, lifting women into their most powerful, authentic selves, while empowering clinicians to elevate their practices with a transformational, community-driven model. I lead a thriving, passion-fueled business and naturopathic practice brimming with abundance, where I can guide women to invigorate their lives through sisterhood and elevate healthcare with a cutting-edge transformational approach. I've witnessed firsthand in my practice how this model sparks consistent health transformation, creates flourishing communities, and brings profitable success. You can have it all, a life filled with abundance, contagious joy, and untethered potential. So pull up a seat. It's time to pour into yourself and tap into your intuition and design a life that's wild, free, and uniquely yours. And I'm going to show you how. This is Wild Medicine. All right. Dr. Tara.
Hi.
We meet again. We do this recorded.
Love it. Excited to be here.
I did a solo episode to just update everybody with all the changes that we are making, and of all the positive changes we're making is one that you will be a very familiar face on here, that we will be doing this together. And I am so excited for that. I think it allows for diversity of thought, and conversations always provide a lot of interest for people, but we do so much of our work together that we may as well podcast together.
I agree.
And share our insights with people who might not know about what we're up to. So let's dive in. Can you introduce this first subject matter for us?
Sure. So as you said, we do a lot together.
Yeah.
So one of the many things that we do together is Shed, which is for those that don't know, it is our weight loss program at the Poppy Clinic. And so today we wanted to share a few things about where to start when you can't lose weight. So as I said, Shed is our weight loss program. And so we see a lot, we hear a lot, and we've been doing this a while. And so we get to see a lot of patterns, which I think is cool. We have like a really macro perspective now on this topic. And so we have a lot to share, and we're excited to help you if you are someone who is struggling with weight loss. So let's dive on in.
Yeah.
What's the first point that you wanted to go over together?
So I think you and I unanimously agreed that I get 1,000 thoughts why I need you. Here's what I want to say. The easiest thing is if you feel stuck, if you feel like things are not working and you feel frustrated, we need to do a deeper dive. We need to do some investigation. And what I want to say with this is, which is why I got flooded with emotions, and it's why I serve humans I understand, is we also need to start to create a level of discernment for ourselves of what are our emotions and how are they getting out of the way, and what are the actual metrics that are going on in your body that could be making weight loss challenging.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and with every patient, that's exactly where we start. We start with blood work. We get big picture of what's going on. We do that through blood work, and we also have an in-body machine at the clinic, which is another way that we get a lot of objective data. So we look at visceral fat, body fat percent, muscle mass. That gives us a really good starting place. Patients understand their full metabolic picture when they come into the program, which is really important, right? And something we were chatting about before that we see often is insulin resistance when it comes to something we're looking at blood work. And that is one thing. If someone has a high degree of insulin resistance, and we see this all the time, it is really challenging to lose weight. So for those that don't know, Insulin essentially is the thing that helps glucose get into the cells, and every cell in our body needs glucose. And when our cells don't respond as well to insulin for a variety of reasons, then glucose doesn't get into the cells. And when it doesn't get into the cells, it gets stored as fat instead. Obviously, that can be a big contributor to weight gain, and it can be really frustrating. And that's something that we assess with blood work. What we know about SHED is that it is so supportive for insulin. There are a lot of things that we do in the program that really help to improve insulin resistance, and it makes weight loss on the other side while you're in SHED and even afterwards so much easier. So that can be a big piece of the puzzle for a lot of people that are struggling to lose weight.
Yeah, and to add to that, it can also be quite validating in your experience. So many people walk around feeling like their body is broken, and what's often not understood, or what's often not um, thorough enough, is the type of blood work that's being done to create a better picture of what could be foundationally going on. So to add to what you were saying, insulin resistance is probably one of the most common trends we might see in a weight loss perspective. And to understand that when we have dysregulated insulin levels, that often is strongly correlated to elevated or dysregulated cortisol levels. So there's this huge hormonal picture that we need to understand is a barrier. We're not always, quote unquote, blaming the hormones for things going on, but we do need to understand how your lifestyle, your patterns, your sleep, your eating trends are actually long-term affecting your biochemistry, your hormonal communication. And when we don't fully get those pieces, and this is where I think the emotions start to flood in, is that we feel like our body doesn't make sense. And that, I think, a huge one for both of us is, if the goal is about creating clarity for you so that you understand when you are making informed decisions around nutrition or movement or lifestyle choices, that you're doing it with a higher level of intentionality. And the first step of that is always going to be awareness. And, I think one of the other really cool pieces of investigative work, well, I'll add a few pieces because our InBody is quite possibly one of the coolest tools we have, and has added a layer of depth for us as clinicians in terms of how we can meaningfully support our patients to not only shed fat and visceral fat in particular, but also how to maintain and build muscle mass. But one of the reasons, another top reason patients will come to us wanting, further investigation and explore a reset program like ours, is because of the level of inflammation is so high. And so I think when we're looking to do more metabolic screening, the blood work is inclusive of metabolic markers and inflammatory markers, all the things that create a lot of quote unquote noise in the body that don't allow for us to have the best decision-making capacity around our health. A lot of our food supply is um, designed to hijack our neurochemistry to make it hyper palatable and addictive. And so this is, an area where a lot of people feel like, well, the idea of intuitive eating sounds cool, but like if there's a lot of inflammation, we're probably not making the best decisions around our nourishment. And so I think this investigative piece can never be overlooked. Like the first thing people should do is dive deeper. If something's not working, we need to ask better questions. We need to get better data to help inform how to move forward. So, doing a full spectrum metabolic screening and blood work, I think is so important. And we do have a guide available to patients. So whether you're local to us or not, you can definitely get our guide, and that can start the journey for you with your healthcare providers, but also the InBody. So many of us make a lot of meaning out of the scale. People don't step on the scale. People make a lot of meaning about the scale. People feel very, dysregulated around that number. And we're able to have a much more higher level, and in response to that, create a neutrality around that data. And I think that's really important. I think for a lot of, well, some individuals will share with us, like, I've always been the bigger kid. I've always been actually more muscled. And we're able to show them on an InBody how their BMI is in no way reflective of their overall health. They might be beautifully muscled. And for us, like, the reset is step one. We want it to be the last step one you require in terms of weight stabilization and creating a level of peace in your body. But it's step one. We are constantly talking to our patients about the long term goals of being able to independently open a jar in your last decade of life and to be able to prevent falling. So having your lower body being quite strong, balanced to the upper body, which tends to be stronger for most of us. But we start to put these pieces together that at least give people practical insights as to what might not be working and what practical steps need to be taken in order to move that forward and start seeing some momentum.
Absolutely. And I think that really is something that we do so beautifully in Shed is we provide so much information about someone's body, helping them understand the pieces, but in a way that is digestible and understandable. Instead of just like, here is all of this data and now go figure it out, right? It's okay, here is what we're seeing on your InBody. Here's what we're seeing on your blood work. Here's what comes next for you. Here's how we can make tweaks. Here's how we can support you after the reset, right? It's that direction, I think. And something that we hear all the time from patients is they're getting all of this health information from social media, right? It's a noisy world out there. Everyone has something to say about nutrition, about weight loss, about building muscle mass. Sometimes I'm scrolling, I'm like, what is all this? What are people talking about? And it's really confusing. And I think that that's where Shed and working with professionals that have done this so many times, it provides so much clarity. And like you said, so many patients come and they think that they're broken because they see all of this online and why can't I get those results? Why can't I figure this out for myself? But it's so noisy that it's actually more confusing than ever.
Hmm.
Like weight loss is more confusing than ever because everyone has a perspective and no one is looking at that individual's individual body, right? It's big blanket statements. And yeah, I think that's what we do really well is we just help patients to discern what is important for them and what the next step really is to get them the results that they're after. And it is different for every patient.
Totally. And like, pro tip, the louder people are, the more likely they carry no liability insurance. So
True.
they will not get sued. So really understand that if they are loud, they're probably unregulated, and you should be very cautious about that. And they can say whatever they want. So it sounds really sexy. That's why doctors often sound not sexy in what they deliver, because we're liable for everything that we say. There's a level of intentionality and caution and integrity with our word for our patients to not oversell something and make it sound like the golden ticket. But it is so hard now with the level of information that's coming in. And I think that's why our ultimate goal with doing this reset is that you are able to shut out the noise and to start to navigate the world with what feels in alignment for you. Is this good? Is this not good? Is this trend going to work? It's like, how does that sit in your body versus someone telling you what you need to feel about something, especially if it's the latest and greatest, you know?
Absolutely.
I think something that you said too, I want to highlight on is like, we're very thorough in our investigation, and we take this really big approach up front to help people understand their body better. But I think something you said that I would like to emphasize is I think why it's so digestible is that with us, there's tons of access. We're seeing our patients weekly. They're in a community with us. They feel like they are being held in a very vulnerable time of change. Transformation is hard. Weight loss is highly emotional for most. And, we get to break down concepts and educate in a week by week basis that does allow and permit that growth and that access to be able to digest all the complexity of it. And I think that's why we have really meaningful long-term maintenance results, is that how we've approached our program, I think, is distinctly and uniquely positioned in a way that is in service of our patients, that they truly leave being the best advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. I think the biggest win at the end of the program is patients saying, I get it. I get it. It all makes sense. It all makes sense, right? They
Yeah.
know what to do moving forward. It's no longer a mystery,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's that confidence piece, and that's what maintenance is actually understanding your body, understanding how to properly fuel, what
Mm.
your body needs, how to have those boundaries with people, right? Like all of that is baked into the program. It's so intentional the way that we move patients through this process. We are so clear about what we want the end result to be. Yes, it is weight loss, but it's so much more than that. It's setting you up for success long term, to really understand what is going on in your body, to know how to build muscle mass going forward, how to have different coping strategies instead of food in those hard times when maybe those old patterns flare. There's so much more than just reducing the number on the scale.
Yeah, and, like, it leads great to the next point, but, I mean, this is what was so empowering for me. Like, I went through this process. I felt mystified by my body. I followed really prominent health trends, and I think I really messed my hormones up, and as a consequence of all of that, I had to bring it down to, like, the most foundational level, and my mind was blown. I had been a naturopathic doctor at that point for 7.5 years. So you would think if anyone were to get it, I would be of that category, and I didn't get my body at all. I didn't understand food. I didn't know how to nourish myself, and I think that's one of the values. And so if you find you've been unsuccessful thus far, our point number 2 is to get, comfortable with looking at what you are putting on your plate, like tracking it all for at least 2 days, but 2 weeks is great data. What research does show us is that we all tend to underreport and inaccurately report what we consume in a day. And that might just be human behavior. It might be that it's more comfortable. I used to laugh because early on as a clinician, I learned that there was a certain pattern in responses around food. And I would always say, "How's your diet?" Every patient says, "Good." And then I'll say, "Okay, great. Like, give me an example. What'd you eat yesterday?" "Well, yesterday wasn't a good day." And if I'm a betting person, I'm willing to bet that there are more days that weren't good days than you're wanting to disclose to your healthcare provider. And so this level of keeping it as a blind spot is what is creating this discomfort in your own body and feeling like you don't know what to do with respect to losing weight. I've yet to still to this day see someone who's truly underfueling and gaining weight. I don't think it's a thing. I'm not seeing it. And most of those patients who report that and visit one, I'm sure to ask them, like you said, it's like my favorite thing at the end when they say, like, I get it. When they say I get it, and I say, so do you think you were underfueling? They're like, oh no, 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 no. We just are reporting the meals that we like to report on, and we're forgetting the emotional sabotaging in the evening and all the snacking and all the things that we do in secret. Those things accumulate over time. And when we have some honest reporting and data, I know I'm going to let you launch into because I know we're equally passionate about this, but I think, a goal of mine is to create a level of neutrality around nourishment and all of those pieces, but nourishment in particular. And the more we keep something hidden, the bigger the emotional distress that is created because we're not owning it. And the more clarity around all those pieces, the more you can be like, yeah, I chose to eat the cookie. I wanted it. It tasted good. Maybe that caused a fluctuation on the scale. Unlikely, but if it does, okay. I ate in caloric excess. Yep. And I eat a different way the next day, and that, the scale comes back down. What we want to create is this new heightened relationship where we haven't given power and emotional pieces to food. It
Hmm.
needs to it needs a neutral position in our life in order to be able to start to befriend these pieces.
Yes. And I think too, when it comes to that underfueling piece, I find when talking to patients about this, they're underfueling in the macronutrients that they should be eating so much more of, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like underfueling because they're not eating enough protein. So they say I'm underfueling, but they're also eating a whole bag of mini eggs,
I was gonna
right?
say, like, maybe what it is it's like it's lacking nutrient density.
I think so.
Correct, you're underfueling from a nutrient perspective.
Yes. Yeah. But calorically,
Right,
excess.
right. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's so interesting because I agree with what you're saying about neutrality, right? And I think that for so long and for so many people, calories are almost the enemy or something, or it's like it's so confusing and overwhelming and I don't know where to start. And so I'm not going to start at all.
Mhm.
And tracking your calories is the best kept secret to weight loss. It is essential. You have to be in a caloric deficit in order to lose weight. That is a fact. And it's so fascinating because it is absolutely essential, but it feels like such an overwhelming task for so many patients because they don't know, well, how many calories is enough? And what if I am eating too little? Or what if I'm eating too much? And then how do I scale that back? Like it's almost such an overwhelming task that they stop themselves before they get started.
One of my favorite things that came up when that event we hosted a couple of weeks back was Dr. Lana Polo speaking to how sedentary we actually are. And so I think it gets very noisy in terms of how many calories people think we should be eating, but we need to understand what we're able to actually burn in our sedentary lifestyle. So what might sound like very low calorie to someone who is strength training and in a muscle building and hypertrophy phase is going to be way too much for someone who's actually sitting at their computer for 9 hours a day. And there needs to be a level of brutal honesty around that. There is no magic number for all of us. It needs to be individualized and customized, not only to, macronutrient optimization, but also to your lifestyle.
Hmm.
And I thought that was such a wonderful perspective added because I do find it takes a bit for patients to build up their calories, but that's going to be in direct correlation to movement and muscle building.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes time and it does require such an individual approach, right? Like what is right for one person isn't right for another person necessarily, right? And even depending on, let's say, level of insulin resistance, maybe that means that that person needs to be on a lower carb diet for a while in order to reduce the level of insulin in their body, reduce inflammation. Like it is so individualized
Mhm.
and tracking it's everything. It is such a big piece of the puzzle. And it's funny outside of Shed when I've had patients do this, and I say, okay, just track what you're eating for a few days. And they'll email me halfway through the week and they're like, this is the most eye-opening thing I've ever done. Tell me my targets. I cannot continue this way.
Okay, we get it. It is super confusing to figure out how you should be eating, and you've probably been hearing a lot more about increasing your protein consumption. We've got you covered. If you are looking to understand how much protein you might want to consider, then please go check out our calculator. It will help show you what this looks like for your ideal body weight, what that looks like per meal and throughout the day, on days that you're strength training and on days where you're just a normal gal about the town. If you are looking to understand protein a bit better and want to bring that conversation to your regulated healthcare professional, then please Go check out our calculator online in the show notes so that you can have a more strategic approach to your nourishment and to your protein levels. Your future self and vibrant energy will thank you.
So eye-opening. And I think there's also, this might be a little controversial, but I think it needs to be said. Okay, there's a lot of people will say I have a whole foods diet, right? Which is great. And that is always the goal, right? We want you eating whole foods. They're obviously so nutritious. But you can eat whole foods in excess. And I think it's important that we realize that. And again, if we are eating in excess day after day, week after week, we are in a caloric surplus. And so let's take the whole foods that you're already eating and let's get strategic about them. It's not about cutting out the whole foods. Absolutely not. We want you eating the whole foods, but in the proportions, in the quantities that actually fuel your body, that make you feel the best. It's an important nuance, I think.
It's huge because I think I fell into that category, and you and I were talking on Friday about how we both fell victim to this. And this is where public opinion and emotions around things can influence the way we support people, right? So there's some bias there, right? So, I was saying in our school, I felt we weren't equipped with understanding macros well enough, and possibly because being influenced by not wanting people to focus on calories for the risk of it being triggering for those who have an eating disorder. Similarly to, I lived with a nutritionist, and at that time, a bazillion years ago when I was a student, the main narrative in nutrition school was that calories don't matter as long as you're eating whole foods. And so we were all impacted by this opinion, and it is what tripped me up.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like I was saying to you, like the amount of olive oil that used
Yes.
to go in my salads
Me too. Yeah.
would now take me 6 months to consume now that I understand whole foods and calories. There's a balance, and we don't know it until we measure it. And, I agree with you. Like, I think for me, the most life-changing thing that has allowed for me to have peace and maintenance in my body and my weight for 4.5 years is still macro tracking certain things. Like I was saying, quite honestly, like I still measure yogurt and peanut butter on a scale, because if I measure it with my heart, I don't see it honestly,
Yeah.
right? Like a tablespoon of peanut butter is a lot smaller than you think.
It's tragic, really.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like this gentle and loving reminder that, like, there doesn't need to be a whole lot of emotion around it. Calories do matter. They
Yeah.
have a caloric value. To your point, you cannot lose weight unless you're in a deficit. How you navigate a deficit is truly up to you, an approach that feels in alignment, but the deficit has to be there. And so
Uh-huh.
first, this data collection is really the overarching theme of our um episode, because you first need to know what's going on. And I love that. I know you support a lot of our patients where maybe shed isn't something they're a candidate for, or they want a different approach. And so you get to see this side of this radical honesty in lifetime. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really do. And I think, when it comes to calories, yes, there are people that have a history of eating disorders who, yeah, maybe tracking their calories is really triggering, is going to send them into a tailspin. And, sure, there is that percentage of the population, but the vast majority of the population does not fall into that category. And this vast majority of the population, that is critical information. And I think that overall, we do a disservice by not teaching people how to understand their body. What we know is that being obese is a risk factor for almost every chronic disease, almost every chronic disease. And so why are we not teaching people the best way to prevent chronic disease? And that is to keep your weight stable, to keep your weight in a healthy range. And if the secret is calories, we need to be teaching people this. People need to be aware of this. This is how you become your own doctor. This is one of the foundational ways that you understand your body. It's understanding your macronutrients. It is so important. And I think, honestly, I really think that we do the world a disservice by not sharing that information in fear of triggering a small percentage of the population. And I think that, and we've seen this too, the people that it will trigger, they tell you, they're honest about it. Hey, that's not for me. That's going to trigger me. And I know that, and I'm going to step away. Right. And so there needs to be different approaches for those different groups of people.
I want to add too, 'cause I think it's really important. This is an important subject matter, and I know this is particularly what could be so triggering about our work, and we understand and appreciate that. There's a lot of patients that have come across our path who feel like no one wants to support them or help them in a strategic way because of their history of an eating disorder. And, you know, we collaborate with a nurse and we talk at length around these pieces, and we do a ton of upfront screening around whether or not we think someone's at risk for, reinitiating or falling back into old patterns or disordered eating. And, there are a lot of people too that in teenagehood,
Mhm.
nutrition, I think the statistics are pretty shocking around girls starting dieting as young as 12. And I think on average, women have done upwards of 80 diets in their lifetime by the time they're middle age. Like, this is obviously a topic we need to be very cautious and conscientious and very thorough with our patients. But just because something occurred in someone's lifetime, if they have done the work and are in remission and have done the therapy and the behavioral changes, that doesn't necessarily not make them a candidate for a program, right? So I think some of our most beautiful success stories, especially around the transformation of their perception of themselves and rewiring their brain and really creating new beautiful relationships with nourishment and movement, are those who maybe struggled early on but have done the work. And so I do think this is important, is that it is a complex conversation, and it does require, though, deeply care about doing the right thing and properly screening and creating various options for people to onboard onto if it isn't a fit to do a reset, but that it doesn't make you immediately not a candidate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, going back to the way that, like, as you were saying, a lot of professionals won't work with certain people, or even there's a lot of, I mean, I'll speak for myself. Before starting Shed, before doing this work, if someone came to me and had the desire to lose weight, my initial response was, you don't need to do that. Love your body, like this, like body positivity. And I think that there is so much value in that, in loving your body and appreciating your body for what it can do. But as a healthcare provider, if someone is coming to you and they do want to lose weight because they are pre-diabetic, they have high cholesterol, they have evidence of fatty liver, like if this is a real health concern for people, we as healthcare providers are doing them a disservice if we don't address their concerns, if we don't help them reduce their risk of chronic disease. This is important work. And I think, like you said, this is triggering. It's controversial to talk about, but we have done this enough and for long enough to so confidently know that this, for the right patient, changes their life completely. It reduces their risk of chronic disease. It very likely adds years, maybe decades of health to their lifespan. This is important work, and it's controversial, but it is truly, truly so important. We have incredible stories from our patients about all the ways that it has changed everything for them. And that's important. For the right person, weight loss it can change so much.
Yeah, I want to add to this because I think this is really important. It obviously came up for very important reasons. There is okay, first, I think that's the beauty of there being so many different types of practitioners. We understand that we are here to serve those who feel very aligned to what we're saying, and that for someone who really is on a mission to feel comfortable in their own skin and accept themselves at that size, like, there are practitioners out there to facilitate and support that as well. That's the beauty of there being so many resources available, is that that is within your reach to find that practitioner. And there's this one story that sticks out in my mind where a patient heard a nutritionist speak on the subject matter about acceptance and, not doing dieting and, all these pieces. And she said afterwards, so that's it. Like, I'm supposed to just accept this, like when it doesn't feel good in my body and I feel like I'm struggling, and was medicated for hypertension and all of these other metabolic concerns, and ultimately made the decision to join us in Shed and shed the weight and have increased mobility and come off her blood pressure medications and all these pieces. And so it's like, yes, that information is out there. And if that is the information that you really need in your heart, that feels like the most aligned truth for you, it's available to you, and we're probably not for you. And that's so okay. If we can direct you to those resources, we will. And we serve an audience who, for that, truly believe that either there are health implications or inflammatory implications, or that it's not working. They feel like something is misaligned in their body, and who are we to judge or tell them that they need to accept that? And I don't think that's what people are saying. I think we're also just like creating more diversity of thought. And I think, I agree with you. I think it's a controversial subject matter. But controversy became even more heightened when diversity of thought became a challenge. And so I think we want to create this invitation is, hopefully you can tell by Tara and I mean, we are really heart-centered humans who want to do good work and have a huge level of intentionality and integrity with the work that we do. And we also have a lot of support for how other people serve. All perspectives are allowed, and permission for all of those, right? So it's okay if what we're saying isn't aligned for you. There are resources, and we're for the people who really feel like they would like a strategy. And to your point, like, there are health ramifications to being obese, and we need to also talk about that.
Absolutely. And our goal, and we are so upfront with patients about this too, our goal is not to help you become as small as possible. That is not our goal. And we are so honest and upfront about that. And we turn patients away. Like, we tell patients, if this is your goal, we are not the place for you, because we are in the business of making you as strong as possible. That is the goal on the other side of this program. We help you lose the weight, and then we help you build muscle mass. That is the goal. We are building strong men and women who can still be mobile and independent in their 70s, in their 80s, and beyond. That's what we want. And our patients want that too. That's how we know someone is the right fit, right? They want to lose the weight because maybe, and we hear this all the time, if you are carrying an extra 20, 30, 40, 50 more pounds than is maybe right for your body, it's really hard to move. It is really hard to do those squats and the push-ups and all of those things that we want you doing. For so many of our patients, it is lose the weight. It takes so much pressure off their joints, and then go become strong. Strength is the goal. That's always the goal. And Michelle and I, that's what we're working on the other side. I just became a personal trainer. Michelle's becoming a breathwork facilitator. We're building all those pieces in on the other side too, because long term, those are the things that really matter. That's what we're after for all of our patients.
I said that to a patient last week. I'm like, you're stuck with us. Like,
Forever.
of course, want you to outgrow us. We want you to
Yeah,
be your own best
we
advocate,
totally do.
100%. But we deeply care that we are as invested in your success in the reset as we are in your maintenance.
Mhm.
We want this to be the last place that you struggle and yo-yo. We're so committed to making sure that we have the tools and resources available to patients for not only an effective shed, but a long-term muscle mass building, because we know your muscle is your metabolic organ. It is the anti-aging vitality organ that is going to help you stay free and independent and add life to the years that you have left.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of people around me right now losing mobility, and it's hard to watch. And that is a motivating factor for me. And I think it is cool. I think you're right. I think the right patient understands what we're after, and they are cheering and celebrating when their muscle increases by the pounds. They're like, it's the goal. It was always the goal.
Always.
So before we talk a little bit about everything that's coming, 'cause I think that's really exciting. What was your point number 3? I feel like ours are similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Point number 3 for me was taking an inventory of your relationship with food. And this is another big part of the program. And honestly, when Michelle first introduced me to Shed, it was the part that made me the most excited and curious because weight loss is so mental health focused. It is so thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and that's my background. I love all of that. And we see it a lot through the program. We have part of the program is there's mindset that is baked into every day that you are in the program. It's important. We are talking about the relationship that we have with food. Are we using it to cope constantly with challenging feelings? And unraveling those pieces and getting clear about how we are coping, sitting with the things, right? That's where the breath work comes in too, is what is coming up. Let's allow, if you're feeling sad, let's feel sad. Let's allow it, right? Let's allow ourselves to really feel. We don't always have to band-aid feelings that come up, whether that's food or something else that we're using. But it is important. It's a really, because of how safe patients are in this program, a lot of those pieces come up and they get to explore that in a community and environment that is ripe for that, right? Like we encourage that and we allow patients to explore all those sides because that's part of the healing through all of this too.
This episode is brought to you by our Shed Metabolic Reset program. Look, I know there's a lot of programs out there and it can be very overwhelming, especially when it comes to weight loss and long-term fat loss and finding the right program for you. We have an incredible metabolic reset program, one that does thorough investigative work up front, looking at blood work metrics, helping educate you, a really solid, simple plan to follow in the reset phase, as well as long-term education around how to maintain your weight loss for the long term, how to optimize your health, how to increase metabolic flexibility, and how to build your plate so that you are nourished and the strongest version of yourself. Our program includes a lot of care and support with our integrative healthcare team. It is a medically supported program. We include community support, education support, as well as daily mindset calls. We are all about optimizing your health for the long term. This is the exact program that helped me shed 30 pounds and keep it off for 4 years and counting. So if you feel like a reset is something you would like to consider, a pause to help calibrate, come home to yourself, lower inflammation, boost your energy, learn how to confidently build your plate for longevity, then please head over to poppyclinic.com and you will see that there is a pop-up quiz that will get the process started of seeing if Shed Metabolic Reset program could be for you. If it is, we will connect and I cannot wait to support you in living the most aligned, harmonious life, one that reclaims peace and confidence in your body and teaches you how to eat for long-term health. I'll see you soon. Yeah, I think what we've learned is that it's become, interestingly enough, the most valuable part for our patients. Like, it's really cool. We have, a strategy that's very effective and the results come and, the improvements from doing those things are, fairly rapid in terms of how they feel in their body. But the thing that people will tell us about and share with us and reflect on the other side is how much their thought life is changing, how much more intentional they are with boundary setting. People don't think about, and this is why I think I had inventory of thoughts, lifestyles, and behaviors choices, right? So we were right in alignment. Those are the things that if we don't sit back and ask ourselves, we just pattern on. We don't realize they're actual barriers or that they're the things getting in our way. So one of the cool things someone shared with us recently is, and this has been mirrored by a lot of people, is, they're pretty good at handling their own nourishment, right? Like They can keep food in the house that's healthy. They can prepare the food. They can eat at a regular schedule. But where they really struggled and ultimately would sabotage their results was going to somebody else's house and being too afraid to vocalize how they wanted to eat, or being too afraid of triggering the in-laws, or whatever relational dynamics. But we don't realize the gravity of relational dynamics with respect to our decision making in health and our behavioral patterns. And this is the tricky thing. If you have weight loss goals, those factors, those episodes, those incidences matter immensely, because when we were looking at the data, if someone were to choose caloric restriction for an entire year, and let's say they wanted to lose, I think it was 30 to 50 pounds in a year, they would have to perfectly eat in a 500 calorie caloric deficit for 12 months with no variances. So that's the data. That is the metrics behind 50-pound weight loss in a 12-month period. 30 to 50 pounds, but I think it was 50. Every outing, if you do not have the tools, resources, and opportunities to learn about how the mind works with these things, every time you go out on a Friday or a weekend or to the in-laws and you eat in excess, you've now put that back, right? There's a setback in how much longer that's going to take. And so, yes, I get why people are like, it's hard. It is hard. And it can be overwhelming, and you can see how that can cause a lot of emotionality around it. The inventory part is what helps us understand, wow, I seem to really abandon my goals when this opportunity arises, or I'm really good until 8 p.m. And then, I think about all the things where I feel unfulfilled or unsatisfied, and I eat these things to create, because I don't want to feel that or whatever. That inventory piece is so helpful, because then we can start to customize those pieces and create tools and strategies, like you were saying, like even breath work and feeling safe. One of the things that reason I didn't want to do breath work, I really didn't, but in the sense of like another thing that we take on, like we're tragically in school, us, right? Like it's always like, can
Forever.
someone else do this? But I think we just realized we know our audience so well, so we're just going to take that on. But like the thing that really hit me like a hammer over the head is like, I have the privilege of working with women in Wow Collective. Some of these women I've sat with in a circle every month for the last 8 years, which is bananas to me that is like a privilege that I get to say. And still so many of them articulated not feeling safe in their body. It's almost impossible to vocalize your boundaries or ask for what you want or to make long-term meaningful change when you don't feel safe. And so that is a piece that needs to be understood. If you feel stuck, we need to start looking at those lifestyle habits and those thoughts and those behaviors that show up on repeat, because they are most often setting you back. And I think the reason patients love this part of what we offer so much is that they start to really see that those might be the real barriers. We all know what to do. Right? Like we all know what we need to do, but there are real emotional and patterns and um, feelings of lack of self-worth that are really mm, clouding our clear vision. And so I think what we're so proud of is that we get to sit in that with our patients and be like, it's okay. We're just going to let those feelings come up. We're going to just feel them, but you don't have to do it alone. That's
Mhm.
the beautiful thing, is like, we need to do this work, but it is a lot easier to do it in communion with other people.
So much
It
easier.
has to get done. So
Yeah.
you may as well do it with others.
Yeah. And something we see this time and time again with our patients is that when one of our patients begins losing weight, it is extremely triggering for that person's community, their family, their friends, their coworkers, and people, especially lately. I've heard some nasty comments from
Mm.
other people, and that's really hard. That's really hard. When someone is losing weight and it becomes obvious, it holds a mirror to everyone else's habits and patterns, and they make comments and nasty things come out because they are triggered by you taking accountability and taking control over your health. And when you do not have a community support, someone to sit with you through those comments that are made and feelings that come up, it is really easy to quit because it is hard to be different. It is hard to be the weirdo doing something like it's not the world we live in, right? You are strange if you are bringing your own food, if you're saying, hey, I don't want that glass of wine. That is going against the grain. It is hard to live in that way because it is not the way society operates. So if you are doing that, you very likely need a community. You need support to help you through those pieces when it feels hard, when you want to give up, because it is hard. It is triggering to everyone else. It's hard to be on that island alone.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like, even though Instagram might tell you everyone wants to be healthy right now, it certainly is not popular. It is certainly considered very strange to choose healthier lifestyle habits. That is an absolute fact. A lot of us feel isolated. And, when we understand the mind and human behavior and our primal need, our most primal need is to belong.
Mhm.
And so when the social groups that you normally relate to reject you, unless you are armored with different thoughts, a different community, a different perspective, you are most likely to sabotage your results in order to belong to the social group.
Yes,
That is a primal drive and need. So you need to understand what you're up against when you're on this path.
you really do. It's such a big piece of the puzzle.
And sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead. It is
No, I
such
was gonna say it was so beautiful that you said it's such a mirror, right? What people are saying to that person as they shift, everything that they're saying is what they're feeling about themselves. They're getting triggered because they're not doing it, but it doesn't make it any easier an experience for that person who is in the midst of change, already feeling very vulnerable.
Mhm.
And now people feel very free to share without even asking if you share,
Yeah.
right? Because we have bad boundaries, all of us as a collective, right? So we just start saying things. And for some reason, it's socially acceptable to talk about someone's loss. It's never socially acceptable to talk about someone's gain. But if someone loses weight, it's okay. It's free gain. It's like, it's super odd how we've picked up these like societal trends where we're like, that doesn't make sense. Here's a really good example, and I don't like to speak to my family about my family too much because I now have teenagers and I have to be careful. Like, some things that feel benign to us are not benign to somebody else. And, this is a side tangent, but it's important. Why do we feel the need that we can talk about someone's body? But for someone in our family, them being tall, for them, that became a thing that of like, I must be very tall because everybody comments on it. And it became an insecurity, even though it was meant as a compliment. So this is a sidebar, true sidebar, but like, why is it okay? Why is it okay to speak about someone's body when weight loss is good? And this is where the trigger still lies because
Yes.
we have good or bad.
Yeah.
We don't talk about when someone gains weight, but we can talk about when someone loses weight. Like we should do a whole subject on that. But like, it's an interesting thing, but we don't realize what's going on for the body, for that person inside their body. And
Mhm.
I think, like you were saying, like, I don't know, often people are not being complimentary, right? Because they're triggered. But
Yep.
even if they're being complimentary, that can be very destabilizing for someone in the midst of change. Being seen for a lot of people, weight gain is a protective insulation to not be seen. That is something we want to be conscious of.
Yeah. That's totally something we could do a whole
Woo!
podcast on. But yeah, it's there's just so much going on, right? There's so much going on with weight loss. It brings up so much. It brings up so much for the patient who's in it, who so much is shifting for. And in some ways, right? And I think this is why it's so important that we have the mindset. We see our patients every single week. They have a community. For a lot of patients, their whole identity is changing. They're everything about them, right? They are literally shedding their old beliefs, their old thoughts, their old way of relating to other people, and they are stepping into this new version of themselves, of their like different choices, which means maybe different patterns, different social interactions, like so much is shifting, and it's really hard to create a new identity in isolation. You need
Mm.
people who see that, who can recognize that, and who can, and I think something that's so beautiful about our community is that we have people in all stages, right? There's people right at the beginning who are like, hey, today's day one and I'm nervous and I don't know what to expect. And then we have people that are a year out who jump in and they're like, hey, I'm a year and a half out and I'm maintaining beautifully. And here are all the ways that my life has transformed. And I'm so grateful that I did this. And it's seeing what is possible in adopting a completely new identity that is so important for people. It's because it's so hard. It's so hard to do it. It's so hard to do it alone.
So true that opportunity of proof of it working can really change someone's choices that day, right? We can go from patterning out like we do, oh, this is too hard, I'm too emotional, to someone saying like, it's like one breath at a time. And
Mhm.
here I am 2 years out and I'm in, like the best health of my life. And you can be like, you know what? I'm just going to believe her motivation today because I don't have enough for myself. And so I mean, we love community. That is a shared love. We know the power of it for people. Like we can't transform long term in isolation. It's too hard. It's too daunting and we weren't built to do that. That is going against our innate nature, actually. So you can only go against your innate nature for so long before you default to old patterns because it's too difficult,
Yep.
and
Yep.
our brain doesn't like difficult.
Yeah.
We are wired for survival, and we're wired to conserve. So if you're going on a path too long on your own, you're going to conserve energy and just default to how you used to roll. And unless, like we said, the pain of staying the same is more painful than the pain of change, you're just not going to do it. And so, knowing these pieces, we honor our patients by providing all the tools, resources, and lifestyle habits that they would need to meaningfully change. And, we talk about being the luckiest people on earth because we have the happiest practice. Everybody's happy. It's so enjoyable,
Mhm.
but we're not shy to confront. We have super high standards for our patients,
Yep.
and we're not afraid to confront the hard. And in that, we've created this beautiful methodology, if you will, of long-term transformation. Yeah, we might focus on weight loss. It might be the reason you come to us, but you'll definitely leave with a lot more than what you came for.
It's so inspiring. Even as we're talking about this, I'm like, I'm so warm and fuzzy because our
Mhm.
patients are so inspiring. And we joke about this. I'm emotional. So in with patients and and for me, it's watching their visceral fat come down week to week. And that will always get me. From the beginning, like seeing a patient, how much, and visceral fat, that's the fat that's literally wrapped around our organs. Every point down is transformative for their health. And so at the end, I'm like, your visceral fat dropped by this many points. And it's because that's the medicine. Like that is longevity. And how cool that we get to be part of that, right? We get to shepherd
Mhm.
patients through this and see them just transform. Like it's such an honor to walk alongside patients who are so deeply committed to transforming their life. They're line in the sand. They are like, I will not be the same. I will not go back. I'm choosing to live differently for the rest of my life. And it's not an easy thing for patients to do. And so watching them do it so beautifully and so successfully and with so much determination, it's
Mhm.
such a gift. Like we are truly so lucky, truly.
Truly. And I think just to like wrap it up, we really we really hope our patients leave with this opinion that there are no secrets. There are no secrets to success. This is very obvious and clear. If you do the things, you get the results. If you don't, you don't. And it is that simple. And we're annoyingly triggering in that capacity because we don't want people to feel mystified a moment longer. And I think that is a beautiful way to wrap up this concept that if you feel like something isn't working, something isn't making sense, it's just because you haven't created an awareness yet. There are no secrets. It is absolutely clear. And hopefully the insights we shared with you gave you perspective on how you can navigate clarity, because clarity is kind, and it is certainly, awareness is the jumping off point to better decision making.
Yeah. And so if you are interested in learning more about SHED, Michelle is going to be hosting a masterclass to share all of the details with you. It's going to be on January 28th, right? Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
7 p.m. It's virtual. So we serve patients all over Ontario. We are located in Burlington, but if you are anywhere in Ontario, we can support you. So the link will be in the show notes to sign up. We would love to have you there if this feels like something you're even just curious to learn more about. We'd love to see you there. We would love to have you.
Yes, we would. And Tara, I loved having you. I'm excited for everything that this year holds for us, and I'm really grateful that I get to do this work with you. So thanks. Thanks.
I couldn't agree more. I'm excited for all of the things. It's going to be really fun doing this together.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Wild Medicine. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more incredible women just like you. And before you go, quick reminder, the information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. Please consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice and care. And if you're ready to take inspired action and dive deeper into your own health journey, please visit us at poppyclinic.com. Let's rewild and reset your health together.